the degree of the denominator, there is no horizontal asymptote. Slant asymptotes were on a test before, they're not on this one. If the degree of the numerator equals the degree of the denominator, then the horizontal asymptote is y equals a over b, where those are the leading coefficients. Okay? If n is less, the degree in the numerator smaller than the degree of the denominator, then it's y equals 0. You got to know those. You don't know which one they're going to give you. I think they only give you one. So can you do that problem now?
Yeah.
Okay. That was a good question to ask. Next. 25. What did 25 say?
Solve the polynomial inequality, graph the solution set on a number line.
Okay.
Express the solution set in multiplication x squared minus 2x greater than or equal to 20.
So what we're going to do, thank you. This is the last one, isn't it? All right, so we've got x squared minus 2x minus 8 is less than or equal to 0. So we're going to solve this like we normally would, which is like minus 4 and plus 2.
Yeah.
Is that how it factors?
Yeah.
Equals 0, x equals 4, x equals negative 2. But now what do you have to do? You have to do what? You have to do a table. So polynomial inequality, write yourself a note that it's going to require a what? It's going to require a table. Because that's what you learned when I taught it. Negative 2 to 4, 4 to infinity. Now we're going to need test values. So how about negative 3, 0, and 5? So we're going to test it into x minus 4, x plus 2, and this is going to be negative times negative is...
Wait, just 3 seconds. Wait, what are the qualifications for it to have a table?
That it's a polynomial inequality. Don't need a table if it's equals. If it's greater than or less than, you need one. If we put in 0, we'll get negative 4, which is negative, times 2, which is positive, so that's negative. If we put in 5, it's going to be positive times positive, which is positive. Now, don't assume that you eliminate the negative. How do you figure out what you do? What does this mean, greater than 0? Positive. Are you listening? What if this had been less than 0? What kind of numbers are less than 0? Negative. Then we would have chosen the middle one. But this says a polynomial needs to be greater than 0, and numbers greater than 0 are positive. So we don't want that. We want negative infinity to negative 2, and we use a bracket because of the equal to sign. And then we want 4 to infinity. So what should the graph look like? You've got negative 2, it should have a bracket. You've got 4, it should have a bracket. And we're going this way forever. And then you're going that way forever. How are you going to know which side to do? You're not going to know. The table tells you where it's positive and where it's negative. If that had been less than or equal to 0, our answer would have been the center. We would have chosen the negative part. So that table is intricately important. Next. What did 26 say?
Graph the rational function f of x equals 4x squared divided by x squared plus 36.
4x squared minus, like this. Was 4x squared by itself? Okay. So what are your vertical asymptotes? Plus and minus 6. So if we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So at these points, we need a vertical asymptote. What is your horizontal asymptote? How did you get that? The top equals. So it's going to be 4 over 1. Let me ask you a question. How many of your choices have these asymptotes? How many?
21.
Just one? So we're finding the asymptotes enough to let you know which one you needed. There you go. Was that easy? If it were on my test, what would you have had to do? Then you would have chosen numbers less than -6, in between -6 and 6, and then greater than -6 and done tables, if you recall. Next. Okay, then Mike, make sure you know what you're going to need. Okay, what did 27 say?
The revenue achieved by selling X profit calculated is figured to be X parentheses 46 minus 0.5X parentheses dollars. The cost of each calculator is $30. How many graphic calculators must be sold to make a profit? And in parentheses revenue minus cost of at least $150.
Okay, so what they've done is they have told you that profit is revenue minus cost. Did they give you the revenue function?
No. Oh, yeah, I mean, like, they didn't.
Did they give you the revenue function? Okay. Did they give you the cost function? Not quite. They told you one calculator is $30. How many calculators are you selling? X. So if you have X calculators at 30 bucks a piece, what is it? 30X. Does it make sense that revenue is the money you take in, you take away cost, then you get profit? Revenue is not what you get to keep, because you spend a lot of money to get there. So if you want your profit equation, then it's going to be, where did I get 46X minus 1/2 X squared? Where did I get that? I distributed the X on the revenue, and why did I subtract 30X? What does it tell me to do? Subtract the what? So this is, what's 46 take away 30? So you get 16 minus 1/2 X squared. And didn't they say that they want that to be greater than or equal to 115.5? Yeah. So in order to solve this with a square and X, we need 0 on one side. And I'm going to add 1/2 X squared. I'm going to subtract 16X. And I'm going to add 115.5. Now, you certainly could have done quadratic formula. I'm going to multiply by 2 and get X squared minus 32X plus 232. And it just so happens that 232 is 11 times 21. So this is going to factor into X minus... Wait a minute. I move this over. Something's not right. We want profit, which is this. We want profit to be greater than or equal to this. Correct? So if I move all that over, I still have, all right. So this, say that again.
Oh, you times everything by 2?
Yeah, I multiplied everything by 2. What were their answers like? Was there anything to the left of 11 or the right of 21? Or is it just between those two numbers? Then that's, you can stop there. Okay, Mike, you had a question. 32. What did 32 say?
Fx equals the log base 5 out of x 3 minus x to find the log.
Ah, what kind of issues do we have on this? 0 issues, because you can't log 0. What else? What are your issues on the log function? I also have negative issues. Think about it. If I have log base 5 of -1, that is saying, what do I raise 5 to get a -1? Can you raise 5 to a number to get -1? No. So you can't, the expression can't be negative and it can't be 0. So you know how to deal with 0 issues. You know how to deal with negative issues. You're just going to deal with them at the same time. So we're going to say 3 subtract x equals 0 or x equals 3. Then it requires a what? Right. What part of it requires the table? Not the 0, but the negative. So we're going to have negative infinity to 3, 3 to infinity. We're going to do test values like 0 and 10. We want to substitute into 3 minus x. What's 3 minus 0? Positive 10, or 3 minus 10? Negative. So what is the domain? What do we put around 3? Why? The 0 issue dictates the parenthesis. The table issue dictates, I mean the negative issue dictates the table, yes. Because you have to know, if you have a calculator and you try to log 0, it doesn't work. You get an error. If you try to log a negative number, it's going to give you an error. That's something you need to study. Domain of logarithmic functions cannot be 0 and they cannot be negative.
So it has a 0 issue if there's a variable?
This 3 minus x can't be 0. What makes that 0? 3. What's 3 minus 3? Why is that? Why can't it be 0? If I have log base 5 of 0, this is saying 5 raised to what exponent is 0. How do you raise any number? You can't do it, right?
Okay, so that, and then what's a negative issue?
Negative issue means that you can't log a negative number. So let's say if I have log base 5 of -1, what do I raise 5 to give me -1? 5 to the 0 is +1. 5 to a -1 is 1/5. You can't do it. Okay, and that's the one. That's what they're testing for, to see if you understand that. Yes.
Is the SPC test split up or?
If it were split up so that the first 20 questions here match the first 15 questions there, I would have given you a test today.
So it's just.
That is why you have the review, SPC review, all at once, because theoretically that test should have been given all at once. So there was no reason for them to. I'm telling you that I took the first page off because that's the first 15 questions. The next 2 pages are the last 15 questions.
So this review is in no order?
Not necessarily. Now, granted, a lot of the first 15 are a lot of the first 20, but I'm not going to 100% guarantee because there was a inverse that was in the first 20, but is in the second grouping, I think. Or it's in the first grouping and in the second whatever.
Yeah, second.
Okay. A test grade. Part A was worth 110, Part B was worth 85, and this will probably be worth 100.
So is the first part like?
Or 120 because that would be easier.
Wait, is it like split up or is it like two?
I had to, the first 15 questions are tomorrow, the last 15 are Friday. But are they split like we split the review? Not necessarily. Okay. What other questions do you have? We got more time.
The grade for it is going to be both parts the next 2 days are part of the same grade.
Yes. In fact, I will hold your Scantrons. I'll give them back to you on Friday, and then you go do the second half. And then I'll run them through this machine all at once. All right, what's next? Which one? What 33 say?
Property of logarithms. Expand the expression as much as possible or possible or not even expression like calculator, log base 2, parentheses, square root of
Square root of x, like that? Where 8's not under the root.
Yeah, the 8 is.
It is under the root?
I mean, no, my bad.
It's not under the root. Okay, so we got log base 2 of x to the 1/2 over 8. So what does the division say about properties of logs? Yep, so that's going to be log x to the 1/2 minus log base 2 of 8. What does the exponent say? So we have 1/2 log base 2 of x. Now, what is the exponent of 2 that gives 8? That is as far as it goes. What's next? Did you have to condense one? $34? What did 34 say? Okay. Read it. Okay, so your goal here is to get the same base. Did they say same base? So see, they told you how to do it. 1/4 is 2 to what power? Negative to put in the denominator, 2 to get the 4. The bases are the same. What's your equation? Up. 7 minus 3x equals -2. Add the 3x, add the 2. Oh, x equals 3. Next. 36. I mean, if you couldn't do something, or if you're not sure, ask. 36 said. Log base 10. Okay. Okay, what drives me crazy about this problem? Yes. Would I have put log base 10 there? I would have just put what? Log. When you have two logarithms and you're solving an equation, what's the first step? Put them on same side, and then you're going to use properties. So to get the other log over here, we are going to add it. So now that they're on the same side, this is log of what? Equals 3. Now what? Ten to the third equals, I'm distributing x squared minus 30x. Because of the square and the x, we're going to subtract the 1,000. Okay, so what are the factors of 1,000 that add or that subtract to give you 30? I didn't know, so I looked at the multiple choice answers. And what are the only two numbers they gave you? The choices were 50 and 20. And if you multiply those, what do you indeed get? 1,000, right? So who has to be positive and who has to be negative? So we got negative 20 and x equals 50. Now, they didn't even give you two answers, did they? Which is a shame, because that checks to see if you were checking. Hold on, let's go back. Can I put a negative 20 into that expression for x? You cannot log a negative 20. If I put 50 here, I get positive 20. If I put 50 here, it's positive. I can do that. So the only correct answer is 50. Matt, did you have a question?
Okay, wait. Back to 36 for a second. Oh, back to 33. How does that become 3?
Okay. What does a logarithm mean? When we write this, what are we asking? What is a logarithm? Do you remember what a logarithm is?
Oh,
Right. So the question is, what is the exponent of 2
yeah.
that gives you 8? Next. Oh. So 37 said what? Thank you. Oh. What's a sub 0? That's the original, where you started, correct? Okay, they said that A is the amount in pounds of a radioactive material stored in a concrete vault. X is the number of years. 400 pounds are placed in the vault, so where does 400 go? A sub 0, oh, I forgot something. There's an X, or for X. Where does the 400 go? AO, because that's the initial amount put in there. All right, and then they say they want to know when is there going to be 40, 20, 30, 50 pounds. Do I put that in for X or do I put that in for A? A, because A is what? Pounds. Now, what do you do next? We can't because of the X. We have to isolate the exponential part, which means you have to divide by 400. Which becomes 1/8, because those cancel and then 5 goes into 40. All right. So now, how do we rescue the exponent from the exponent position? Right. We're going to raise both sides we're going to take ln of both sides. Maybe. All right. So we're going to have natural log of 1/8. Now the exponent comes out front. And what is ln E? You all should know this. What's ln E? 1. So how do you now solve? Divide by that number. Now, on your calculators, make sure you close the parenthesis on that ln. Otherwise, you're going to get a wrong answer. Whatever that happens to be. I think it was 180. 37. If their answer is correct, it's 180. Other questions? 22. 22 is asking when did you reach the maximum height? And was it negative 16t squared plus 64t? Okay. So, someone's standing on some building, and he has this ball, and he tosses it in the air, and they want when is the maximum height. What special point of the parabola is that? Vertex, exactly. And that vertex is t and height, time and height. So if they ask when, what are we looking for? X value of the what? Vertex. So how do you find the x value of a vertex? This is something you need to study. Negative b over 2a. So, and actually that's going to be time. Time is our x value. So time is going to be the opposite of 64 all over 2 times negative 16, which is negative 64 over negative 32, which is 2. That's going to be 2 what? Seconds. Now, what if they wanted to know how high it went? Then you substitute 2 back in to get the height. Correct. What did 39 say? I don't either.
Each test of service production, cost includes overhead of paid for plus production cost of 2,000 per performance.
Okay, stop. Overhead. Do you pay that over and over and over again? You pay that once. $2,000 per production. Do you pay that over and over and over again? So if there are X productions, do you agree 2,000X is how much you pay or how much it costs per production? So if I add those together, will I get total cost? Okay, what's next?
A sold-out performance brings in $8,000.
So revenue is $8,000 per what? Per show. So how do I get the total revenue if it's $8,000 each show? And you have X shows. Wait a minute. That's one show. We're doing X shows. So you're going to have 8,000 times what? X. Now, what does break even mean? That means the cost is equal to the money coming in. Does that make sense? Money out equals money in. That's when you break even. So that means that this is the money in, this is the money out. So what do? 8,000x equals 84,000 plus 2,000x. When you subtract 2,000, you're going to get 6,000. And when you divide by 6,000, what do you get? 14 shows. Okay, this is money in, and the cost is money out. So break even means money in and money out are equal. So that's my out money, that's my in, this is my in money, I set them equal. The problem is you have to have the X next to 2,000 because it's 2,000 per show. It's 8,000 per show, so you need X by the 8,000 again. Next. 30. What did 35 say? Said to go home. 35? Okay. How do you solve, now this is isolated. How do we solve an exponential function? ln the left and natural log the right, so we get x plus 7. What's ln e? Okay, so now that's 1. How do we solve for x? Subtract 7. So I don't know if that was their answer, if it was actually a decimal, but you'd have to use your calculator. Yes?
Would it be like parentheses ln 5, close parentheses minus 7?
It would be ln 5 minus 7.
Okay.
Yeah, the 7's not part of that 5. Other questions? We got like 4 or 5 minutes. If you need 40, let's do it. What did 40 say? Because see, you can review this video tomorrow when you go to study for the next day. Y is greater than 4x squared. So 5y is less than or equal to 10 minus 2x. Y is less than or equal to 2 minus 2/5 x, correct? So what are we going to do? Pardon? You have to find the shaded. Oh, the graphs are all the same. So all you have to do is figure out which is shaded. Does it go, do you follow me? Okay, so let's put 0, 0. Is 0, 0 available? If I put 0 here and I put 0 there, is 0 greater than or equal to? So that goes to 0, 0. All right, let's put 4. Let's do 1, 1. Is 1 greater than or equal to 4? It's false. So find 1, 1 on your graph, and you have to shade on the other side of the parabola that 1, 1 is. If you put 0, 0 here, is 0 less than or equal to 10? You shade on the side of the line now that contains 0, 0. Where they intersect would be your answer. Are you with me?
What did you use for the first one?
I couldn't use 0, 0 because it's the same. I used 1, 1. So if I use the ordered pair 1, 1, does the graph go through 1, 1 too? No. Then, and maybe 1, 1's too close to the graph. Maybe we want to do 10, 0. If I put 10 in for x, and I put, no. If I put 0 in for y and 10 in for x, is 0 greater than 400? So wherever 10, 0 is, which is on the x-axis way over here, you've got to shade on the other side, which I think means inside, correct? Yeah. And then you have to shade below the, well, you have to shade below the line, so I think it's that little teeny tiny part, right? Yeah. So that was kind of nice that at least the lines in the parabola were all graphed the same. All you had to worry about was the shaded region. Any others?
So are we allowed to turn off the stay or no?
Oh, yes.